Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we're going to talk about some updates, some new revelations related to the whole Tenet media fiasco, because I think when we introduce this new information that we have and compare and contrast it to what's actually put down in the indictment, there is a very plausible case that Lauren Chen and her husband were also scammed, also lied to, also duped by these Russian operatives. And I think the evidence for that is quite clear, especially when you would take into account the additional context that we've received now that all of the Tenet creators have come out publicly to talk about what went down when they were at the company. Now, we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
I said this in my previous video, but it bears repeating for people who won't watch that previous video or didn't watch it, but I've always liked and got along with Lauren and her husband Liam. They have always been good to me. Lauren hooked me up with this organization that does these speaking events, so when you see me doing live panels and whatnot, the reason I was able to do that is because she reached out to me, got me a ticket to an event, got me into the green room where I was able to meet the organizers. When I was reached out to by a multi-channel network, remember when I used to do those in-video ads and I didn't know whether or not I should take the offer, Lauren recommended the person because it was her sponsor person. By the way, this is well before she was at RT or even The Blaze, and I was able to basically get half my revenue from those in-video ad reads and half of it from YouTube monetization and all other sources. She did that out of the kindness of her heart. She's always done things like that, and I really appreciate her, and I really appreciate her husband. And many a time when she has been in New York, we would go out to dinner, me, my then fiance, now wife, Lauren, and her husband. So I don't want to just trash that relationship right away based on an indictment that doesn't accuse them of crimes. So those are my biases out there on the table. And I will say, and it bears repeating, if true, if they use their position of trust that they earned over the years in order to put all these different various creators, some of which are friends of mine, in this precarious position, then that's absolutely horrible. But as I said in my previous video on this, I don't believe that they would do that. And now, upon receiving a bunch of different information, because Matt Christensen has done a couple of live streams, I think there's pretty solid evidence that they didn't do that, and I'm going to explain that to you throughout the course of this video.
This morning, we unsealed an indictment in the Southern District of New York of Konstantin Kalashnikov and Elena Afanasieva, two Russian-based employees of RT, a Russian state-controlled media outlet. They are charged with conspiring to commit money laundering and to violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act. That law, enacted nearly a century ago, was enacted to ensure that the American people were informed when a foreign power engages in political activities or seeks to influence public discourse.
So while Lauren and Liam have not been indicted as it relates to their role in Tenet Media, it is important for me to point out that in Section 4 of the indictment of the two Russian nationals, it says that Kalashnikov and Afanasieva, Founder 1 and Founder 2, which would be Lauren and Liam, also worked together to deceive two online commentators, Commentator 1 and Commentator 2, who respectively have over 2.4 million and 1.3 million YouTube subscribers. So right there, it is saying that Lauren and Liam knew. They knew about the Russian connection and all that, and they worked together in order to make it seem like this French, although some people are reporting Belgian, millionaire or billionaire, doesn't matter, top investor, was not the one behind this company, and they cite a bunch of different things throughout this indictment that allegedly proves that. However, when you go into the details, one of the things that you realize is that according to the indictment itself, Lauren and Liam were actually asked on behalf of this investor to hire a Russian PR firm, Russian publicity firm, whatever you want to call it. So that needs to be put out first and foremost so you can understand the potential context for all these different messages. So if you go to Section 22 of the indictment, which can be found on page 16 for those of you out there in the audience, again, linked in the description in full, it is made absolutely clear that as a condition of receiving the money, pursuant Persona 1 asked Lauren and Liam to hire this Russian PR team to handle the marketing around Tenet Media. Again, Persona 1 would be somebody that was meant to be an interface between them and the investor, because obviously the investor isn't going to talk to them with the day-to-day operations. And of course, this person allegedly is going to turn out to be some form of a Russian asset that's actually working for the Russians. Again, this is yet to be revealed, but at this moment in time, I just want to highlight this section, read it to you, so you can understand the case that I'm making. On or about March 31st, Persona 1 emailed Founder 1 a draft of the new contract that we would like to offer. Persona 1 described the new contract as consisting of 2 stages. Quote, the pre-talent signing, where your scope of work is similar to now, and the post-talent signing, which is after we sign Commentator 2 and Commentator 1 with your help. Persona 1 advised that the scope of your work will grow substantially to include managing the channel in the post-talent signing phase with, quote, new areas of responsibility and our new offered compensation. In a subsequent email on or about April 14th of 2023, Persona 1 informed Founder 1 that the, quote, managing and marketing for the new platform's social media accounts would, quote, be done by the Russian firm we agreed to hire. But you will, of course, be the CEO and set the working standard and path for them to follow, and possibly you could hire a few more people from your side to further handle the operational side of things. On or about April 17th, 2023, Founder 1 replied in part that Founder 1 was happy to work with the Russian firm as set forth below. This, quote, Russian firm consisted of Kalishnikov and Affatete, which are the people that are indicted, who later monitored and directed U.S. Company 1's activities under the guise of an outside editing firm.
The American people are entitled to know when a foreign power is attempting to exploit our country's free exchange of ideas in order to send around its own propaganda. The company never disclosed to the... And that is what we alleged happened in this case.
Now look, the reason I'm highlighting this is because it may provide a key context and exonerating context for Lauren and her husband, because it is mandated basically as a part of their agreement in order to take this investment, in order to set up this company, that they work in conjunction with this Russian firm that does the marketing and PR related to Tenet Media. And the reason why I'm highlighting this is because later on, the alleged connections or the alleged knowledge that Lauren and Liam were involved in this scheme is based on them referring to this firm as the Russians. So in Section 10 on page 6, the Justice Department makes the case in the indictment that the reason we know for sure that Lauren and Liam were definitely aware that this was a Russian scheme and thus scamming the people involved is because they referred to in their private correspondence while working directly for RT pursuant to Founder 1's written contract. Founder 1 and Founder 2 regularly referred to their sponsor, i.e. RT, as the Russians. For example, on or about May 12, 2021, Founder 2 messaged Founder 1 on Discord, quote, so we're billing the Russians from the corporation, right? On or about May 22nd, 2021, Founder 1 messaged Founder 2 on Discord, also the Russians paid, so we're good to bill them for a second month, I guess. On or about June 2nd, 2021, Founder 1 messaged Founder 2, quote, also, I say we bill the Russians for the last month once we're done with the extra op-eds. Referred to Founder 1's paid opinion articles for RT. And on or about January 5th of 2022, Founder 2 messaged an acquaintance on Discord about paid leave that the Russians had offered to Founder 1. So right there in that particular section, we have 4 separate communications when they were working at RT where they referred to RT as the Russians in their private communications with one another. Again, 4 communications over the course of a couple of years while Lauren Chen was at RT, although to be fair, it may be a year and a couple of months, not exactly sure, because of course during the February invasion, the contracts that people had with RT in places like the United States and Canada, where Lauren and Liam are citizens from, would have been kaput at that moment in time. Now when we jump from page 6 to page 18, which is section 27, if you're reading the indictment and the pages are out of order, we get this further proof that they knew for sure that this was the Russians, that this was RT, and it is based in this paragraph right here. Despite describing U.S. Company 1's Investor 2, Commentator 1, and Commentator 2 as, quote, Edward Grigorian, a purported finance professional in Western Europe, Founder 1 and Founder 2 admitted to each other in their private communications that their investors were in truth and in fact the Russians. The same term that Founder 1 and Founder 2 previously used to refer to RT while working directly under contract with RT, as described above. On or about May 27, 2023, Founder 1 messaged Founder 2, quote, I'm going to ask the Russians about hiring Producer 2 in this coming week. Approximately 2 days later, Founder 1 messaged Producer 2 on Discord, quote, here's a list of the responsibilities I sent over to the investors to approve bringing you on. Waiting to hear back on timeline, salary. On or about August 8, 2023, Persona 1 informed Founder 1 and Founder 2 in Discord that the request to hire a producer/booker was approved, and that is Producer 2. So this is supposedly the proof that Lauren and Liam knew that their investors were actually the Russians and not this Edward Grigorian guy who is now described as a Western European finance guy. But the thing is, that's not really proof of anything, except for the fact that Lauren and Liam refer to Russians, whether they be at RT or in a PR firm, to be Russians. Let me remind you of what we read at the beginning of this. Remember, page 16 of the indictment, it says on April 14th, 2023, Persona 1 informed Founder 1 that the management and marketing for the new platform's social media accounts would be done by the Russian firm we agreed to hire. But you, of course, will be the CEO and set the working standard and path for them to follow, and possibly you could hire a few more people from your side to further handle the operational side of things. Now, in my previous video on this channel, when I was discussing the idea that content creators were paid to share something that was requested by the Russians on February 15th of this year, which of course was this Tucker Carlson video, I explained to you that the producers in this were actually the people that worked for Tenet and were managing the social media account. And I showed you at the end of that February 5th exchange that the producer agreed to post the Tucker Carlson video tomorrow, aka February 16th, and we have a corresponding Tenet Media tweet of that exact video at that moment in time. So these people, the Russians, as in this PR firm that Lauren and Liam thought was handling the social media side of this, were messaged about hiring another producer, again, which makes sense if they were handling that and allowing them to hire people on their own side in order to manage their side of things about salary and whatnot for this second producer. On top of that, after I made my first video, guess what? People reached out to me that filled these roles that I didn't know. So I actually am aware of who Producer 1 and who Producer 2 are, and this lines up perfectly with their roles, which was, of course, managing the social media, although, to be perfectly fair, Producer 1 had a broader role in terms of editing and whatnot without revealing any names. Now, there's also another thing that is a bit odd, in my opinion, and that, of course, is this June 2nd meeting with Founder 1 and Commentator 1 and this Edward Grigorian guy. Now, this is section 19 on page 15 of the indictment. On or about June 2nd, 2023, Edward Grigorian circulated an email to Founder 1 and Commentator 1's assistant scheduling a Zoom meeting for 5 p.m. Paris that day. In a prior email correspondence, Founder 1 represented to another potential commentator that Edward Grigorian was based in Paris. At approximately 8:58 Central Time that day, Edward Grigorian replied to his earlier email saying, quote, I'm here, guys. However, the time in fact was 3:58 p.m. in Paris, but it was 4:58 p.m. in Moscow. Approximately 2 minutes later, Edward Grigoryan performed a Google search for the time in Paris, and Edward Grigoryan then replied again to his own email, quote, "Sorry, wrong hour, didn't sync the calendar." Now this appears to show the Edward Grigoryan guy, I will mispronounce that name 600 ways from Sunday by the end of this video, misrepresenting his location, not only to Commentator 1, which was revealed to be Dave Rubin, but also Founder 1. And there's no communication in this indictment where they're like, wow, we totally almost bungled that with the whole Moscow time thing. And if there is, it's just not present here. So it's interesting that this person would be misrepresenting themselves to both people and not emailing to clarify this with Lauren or Liam when they're supposedly in on the scheme. So this is section 28, which can be found on page 18, although it goes into page 19. It says, on or about May 31st, 2023, Kalishnikov created a private Discord server containing a channel initially comprised solely of Kalishnikov, Founder 1, and Persona 1. It was called, quote, the Investor Channel Discord. Kalishnikov employed the Discord username Costa K, which includes a variant of his first name, Kostya, and the first initial of his last name, K. Approximately 38 occasions between December 2023 in or about January 2024, Kalishnikov's Discord account was accessed from a Moscow-based IP address that was also used to access Kalishnikov's personal Gmail account on approximately 10 occasions. According to Section 29, on or about June 21st, 2023, Founder 2 joined the Investor Discord channel, describing Founder 2's role as, quote, mostly helping with the company's back end of things, while Founder 1 focuses on more forward-facing aspects. In the Investor Discord channel, Founder 1 and Founder 2 and Persona 1 purportedly to act on behalf of Edward Grigoryan, discuss major decisions for U.S. Company 1, such as the hiring of staff, contract negotiations with contributors, including Commentator 1 and Commentator 2, and payments to U.S. Company 1 and commentators. Kalishnikov monitored and occasionally participated in those discussions. So you have these people in the Discord. We have Persona 1, who is considered to be a contact point for the investor, and we also have Kalishnikov, who again is related to the Russian PR/marketing firm, whatever you want to call it, that the investors insisted that they hire for the social media side of the marketing. Well, this is where things get real dodgy with what the DOJ is claiming, because they're asserting, without accusing Lauren and Liam of actually committing a crime because they're not indicted, that they participated in the deception, and this is broadly being used as evidence by people on the internet.com, even though I don't think that this is sufficient evidence at all to make that case. Founder 2 also used the Investor Discord channel to, among other things, submit U.S. Company 1's invoices to Persona 1 and to press for payment of those invoices. For example, on or about September 11th of 2023 at approximately 8:07 p.m. Central Time, Founder 2 wrote in the Investor Discord channel, quote, today marks 2 weeks since I submitted an invoice for August. Any idea for the delay? We are signing the large contracts and need to be certain we will get the funding to pay these people. Persona 1 did not immediately respond. While awaiting a reply from Persona 1, Founder 1 searched the current time in Moscow, specifically at approximately 8:50 p.m. Central Time on or about September 11th of 2023. Founder 1 searched on Google time in Moscow. The time was in fact approximately 4:50 p.m. Approximately 3 days later, on or about September 14th of 2023, Founder 1 followed up in the Investor Discord channel writing, quote, hey, Persona 1, just wanted to follow up and see if your finance department has any update on the transfers. So this supposedly is the proof, the evidence, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that they knew for a fact that they were communicating with people in Russia. But the fact of the matter is, Founder 2 emailing them about payments, and then 43 minutes later, Founder 1 Googling the time in Russia as it compares to Central Time, to me, is not proof of anything. In fact, the way that people tell this story, it's like Liam sent this email, and then Liam ended up Googling the time in Moscow, But that is just not the case. And in fact, it is not until 3 days later that Founder One ends up following up on this, when if Lauren was so concerned about this, why didn't she just send another email or communicate or reply them in the Discord at that moment in time? Why would she wait 3 days? It seems like they're trying to connect or link a bunch of different things that don't need to be connecting. On top of that, there are a multitude of reasons why you might want to, I don't know, try to Google the time in Moscow when you're working in the news media, and there's all this different stuff that is going on. On top of that, September 11th of 2023 is kind of a crucial date for Tenet Media because that is the day that the channel was created on YouTube, and probably, very likely, a bunch of these different social media accounts associated were actually created. So if you have Liam getting prepared for the launch, trying to email the people related to the paying of the employees, which are representatives of this Edward Gregorian guy, and at the same time, they're creating the social media accounts, and then Lauren is looking at what time it is in Moscow because those are the people who need to be managing those social media accounts. That wouldn't be unusual at all. And again, this is the evidence that they provide that Lauren and Liam were knowingly scamming people. Am I expected to throw away years of trust and friendship based on this? Now look, there's a lot of people who immediately when they saw this said Russiagate 2.0 or 3.0 and the DOJ shouldn't be trusted, but I will assert to the contrary that maybe they should. Maybe the evidence that they put forward in this indictment is legitimate. And when I talk about the evidence, I mean the actual evidence. But what we shouldn't trust is their conclusions, their leaps, their interpretations of the evidence. Because when you look at what's in here, you can make a more than reasonable case that both Lauren and Liam had no knowledge of this, and they were also victims of this scam. On top of that, there's another very key portion of this indictment that often gets overlooked, and in fact, I highlighted it and put it on Twitter so people could check it out and tell me what they thought of it, that would lead me to believe that they were acting in good faith and they might have been victimized and scammed in a similar way that the DOJ is saying that the content creators were victimized and scammed. And that, of course, is this section right here. So on page 10, section 15C, it says as follows. On or about February 8th of 2023, Founder One reported to Persona One on Founder One's outreach to Commentator 1 and 2. This, of course, is Dave Rubin and Tim Pool, respectively. Founder One advised that Commentator 1 said, quote, it would need to be closer to 5 million yearly for him to be interested, and that Commentator 2 said, quote, it would likely take 100K per weekly episode to make it worth his while. Founder One cautioned that, quote, from a profitability standpoint, it would be very hard for Viewpoint, which is the initial name for Tenet, to recoup the costs of the likes of Commentator 1 and Commentator 2 based on ad revenue from web traffic or sponsors alone. Despite Founder 1's warning that Commentator 1 and Commentator 2 would not be profitable to employ, on or about February 14th of 2023, Persona 1 informed Founder 1 that, quote, we would love to move forward with Commentator 1 and Commentator 2. So remember, what we're being told is that Lauren and Liam, people that I've known for years, people who have always been good to me, people who go out of their way to help creators when there's nothing in it for them, monetize themselves better, get better outreach, and all that, we're actually working on behalf of the Russian government knowingly and scheming and lying to creators. But the thing is, if you know that your business is not a legitimate business, why are you emailing your interface with this Edward Gregorian guy about the profitability of these investments in these two creators as if it's a business? Obviously, it seems like based on this exchange right here that Lauren Chen thought she was running a business, a legitimate business, and these people are misrepresenting themselves to her just as they are misrepresenting themselves to the content creators through her later on down the line. And by the way, if you think it should have been considered a red flag for her to warn them that it wouldn't be profitable, but they wanted to go in this direction anyway, I just want to point out that it is a type of business model that we've seen in digital media time and time again, where investors pump a bunch of money into a company, company. They hire a bunch of people knowing full well that the majority of them are not going to be profitable. They produce a ton of content in order to reel in an audience. And then once it's time to make the company profitable, they engage in a bunch of layoffs. And a lot of people make fun of it when it's Vice or BuzzFeed or any of these companies that have done that. But the fact of the matter is, that is the business model when you're operating with investor cash a lot of the time. You're not intending for things to be profitable right away, just like Fox News wasn't profitable for the first 5 years. The Blaze wasn't profitable for years. The Daily Wire likely wasn't profitable for years. This is a common practice in this particular industry. But again, Lauren warning them about the profitability of these two people seems like she thought she was running a business. Now look, despite the fact that I am biased in this, and I admit that, I care about both Lauren and Liam, like I said in my previous video, when it came to inviting people from the content creator world, they were first, not just for me, but for my wife to my wedding at that moment in time. So yeah, while I will accept actual tangible proof that they knew that they were scamming people if it were to come out later, the fact of the matter is, this ain't it. And in no way, shape, or form am I comfortable with burning a friend, throwing them under the bus, throwing them to the wolves based on this nonsense in this indictment that could easily be read a different way to them being scammed as well, as is alleged with these other content creators. And I for damn sure am not comfortable with the fact that all of Lauren's channels, and by the way, Taylor Hanson's channel, were yeeted off of YouTube based on them being unnamed people in an indictment of other people, because I need to mention this again because some people don't get it. Lauren Chen and Liam, as of right now, have not been indicted. They are not accused of any crime. They're not charged with any crime. They are just under investigation. And yet all of their avenues of defending themselves in the public domain, generating income, have been slashed away from them by the Department of Justice based on this nonsensical lack of evidence. And yes, it is notable, not to get into too many Department of Justice conspiracies, that we're close to an election, and this is the big juicy portion of their we found all these Russian ops in the United States of America, because most of them were just websites that were like CNN Los Angeles that were obviously fake and nobody went to, or Twitter accounts or social media accounts like that. And this actually has names attached to it, so there is a desire to pump up their role in Russian disinformation, even though, again, it appears that there's no editorial control, and the majority of these people don't talk about foreign policy the majority of the time. Now look, while I am pointing out that a lot of this so-called evidence can be read in a completely different way, that does not mean that you just embrace every single conspiracy theory and you don't look for an alternate explanation. For instance, when I looked up the channel creation date and found out that it was actually September 11th, the same day that Liam emailed about payment, one of the things that I discovered is the fact, and a lot of people are repeating this online, that Tenet Media had outrageous growth in the month of August just before the indictment. And a lot of people believe that this was done to inflate the size of Tenet Media so it looked like the DOJ was taking down a significant influence operation. However, I have talked to some producers and they've basically told me that this was the first time they put some money into advertising Tenet, and they believe that the subscription growth was due to advertising, because when you pay YouTube to advertise a channel, they promise you somewhere in and around what you're going to get in terms of subscribers for those advertising dollars. There's no need for me to go into conspiracy theories about the Department of Justice, even though we do have your weird curiosity here or there, because the indictment does not support the claim or does not provide sufficient evidence in my mind that Lauren and Liam are criminals or double agents or any of the clickbaity things that I put in my alternate thumbnails in order to get people to click on my previous video that I will likely repeat in this video, because of course I want more people to see this video. But yeah, I'm not willing to throw them under the bus, and a lot of people say innocent until proven guilty, innocent until proven guilty. How about innocent at least until charged, and then innocent until proven guilty? Because again, they have not been charged with anything. It is not alleged at this moment in time that Lauren and Liam committed a crime, and nothing in this indictment is even close to the proof that I would need to believe that they had. Now look, right now, Lauren and Liam do not have a platform to defend themselves outside of their Rumble channels and outside of their Twitter. So what I will say to them is that when they finish their legal battles, when they're cleared by their attorneys, who, by the way, they should be speaking through in every possible way, not speaking themselves because they are under scrutiny, I will happily host either one of them or both of them once they've cleared their good names in order to help repair and rebuild their reputation. Because almost everyone and anyone understands who actually cares about this, that Tim Pool and these other content creators were not informed that they were being paid by Russians and whatnot, and the reputational damage against them is honestly not deserved. But if that's true for Lauren and Liam, then I want to be on the correct side of that, and I want to actually be there for them when they make their comeback. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me going over the indictment to show you things that are not being highlighted by the mainstream media. Till next time.